This is IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Evan Veith, of course, joined by Ian and Justin on this great Thursday morning. I'm filling in for Joe Cook. He's out, so they got the youngster coming in to host a little bit. Not sure what's going on with Justin, but Ian, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. Justin knew we were going to talk about basketball, and so he's hiding from my basketball takes.
Making sure he's not on the screen until that comes up. Before we get into it and before we get Justin back up in here, make sure you're going over to InsideTexas.com for the best sale they've had going on for quite some time. The 50% off spring sale gets you everything you could need. Inside Texas for all the insight from Ian, Justin, and everyone else on the staff. On 3 for your national news. Rivals for your recruiting news. Plus that full year of access to Athletic, all 50% off. It's a great deal right now and the best time to join Inside Texas with all that's been going on with the team and spring practice and things like that. But Justin, how you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Good. We're going to start with Ian's article today that just released, talking about kind of how you defend the Texas offense. Because, Ian, you've been detailing a lot this past few months about how Texas has done so much to add to this offense. You've added the explosiveness in Cam Coleman, a little bit more of a floor raisers in Michael Masunis's and Lawrence Seymour's. And just seems like with the ever-evolving team and Sark's ability to coach, that there's so many good things they can do. But of course, teams are going to defend it. And there's some great defensive minds on this schedule. So when you're looking at the difference between last year's team and this year's team, do you think that ability to just rush the middle, that seems like it's maybe going to be going away for teams to simply beat this Texas offense?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a much more difficult proposition. Manning actually has some amazing numbers against the blitz overall. His numbers in 24 against the blitz were unreal. In 25, they were still surprisingly good, given how bad they were in protection. And the only reason that it was a viable strategy was because Texas was so freaking bad at protecting up the middle. So now they have, Baker and Seymour at either guard is the presumed lineup. That's going to be a lot better than it was last year. Miles better. Robertson's back. That's helpful. That's better. And then you have Manning back with another year, not having guys immediately in his face every play. And then an even better cast of skill talents to get the ball out to. So like if you're playing the fighting the last war game of analysis, Texas is equipped to dominate the last war. Like they're not going to be beatable in the same way as they were in 2025.
Yeah, Justin, I think the thing that we talked about last night on IT Live with Cord is just how much speed this offense has had. And I think that's both a floor raiser and a ceiling raiser when you're talking about maybe beating defenses like I think of last year's Florida, where they kind of just ran right at Arch Manning and he made some great plays, but maybe the skill talent wasn't there. But I think that's probably the biggest difference right now with this team is they have those weapons that can get on the perimeter and make guys miss.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has never had a shortage of speed and skill guys. They just got some experience in that room now, a little bit more so when it comes to the home run ability. Raleek Brown can take it to the house. Hollywood Smothers can take it to the house. Cam Coleman can score pretty easily. You're joining a group of guys that were already pretty stable with Ryan Wingo and that bunch. And so, yeah, there's speed for days on the 40. Is it the Xavier Worthy level speed, Matthew Golden? I don't think so. But you're never, ever going to miss that component. It's the ultimate maximizer when it comes to this sport. And Texas knew they needed home run guys. You don't need Arch Manning to lead your team in rushing. Matter of fact, that's a bad. You want these guys that can take some of the pressure off of him and actually make the safeties pay attention as well.
Yeah, and as Ian pointed out, as you go a little further down, that to beat this defense, this offense is maybe the defense that Will Muschamp's installing, or when you're looking back at how Kurt Cignetti and this Indiana team last year won their championship, just a lot of good athletes at the front and teams that can do a lot of different things. Could you expand on that, Ian? What exactly makes it good against an offense like Texas that seems pretty balanced as it stands right now?
Well, I think instead of being really good at attacking, Texas is going to be too good at countering for you to want to be like an aggressive defense against the Longhorns next year. We'll see. But it feels like Texas has too many ways to just counter punch those teams into the shadow realm, as Joe Rogan says. I just don't know if you're going to be able to get by blitzing Manning if you don't have the pressure that they had last year, and you got like Raleek Brown or some others catching a screen pass, etc. It's just too much. So basically, you just want teams that can play it safe and keep the Longhorns in front of them, but then still have a good enough defensive line to protect the back end of the defense when they hang back, and ideally to still inflict pass rush and maybe some negative plays in the run game. If you have, if you have a super talented defensive line and a super disciplined and varied approach on the back end, I think that's the most dangerous combination.
And as we're looking to the schedule, and you sort of scroll down a little bit, Homer, who do you think are the teams that really stand out? I mean, I know we have these Ohio States and LSU that pop out as the best teams on the schedule, but Oklahoma and A&M are also ones that are known for their defense. You also got Ole Miss on the schedule with Pete Golding. Who do you think is going to be able to set up well as you're seeing some of the standout players that might be available for these defenses? Which one would you say would have the best chance at stopping what Texas is doing if they're humming at a high level?
Theoretically, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They have to get. They need to go back to the drawing board on how they've defended Texas for the last few years, and not do it the way they've been doing it.
Reset.
They need to reset.
Yeah.
But the trick that they have is that Venables is so good at attacking people without giving up the big play over the top. So it's hard for him to give that up.
Which I'm okay with.
Right. Theoretically, they could be great at this because they have really good personnel up front, and their secondary should be at least pretty good, but mostly just because they can do a lot of damage without committing a lot of guys, because they have like David Stone, Taylor Wine is back.
Yeah.
Wine is not even the edge. It's like they'll have one of these Danny Okoye or
man, I was wondering when Okoye was going to pop up in that rotation.
I don't know if he has yet. I think that Adebaware guy.
He's there outside right now.
I don't know if I'm saying that name right. He's like next up. I don't know if he's figured it out yet or not either. And Kip Lewis.
Yeah.
Kip Lewis is an amazing blitzer. I almost listed him instead of Wine, but then I couldn't ignore Wine's outstanding numbers from last year. I didn't realize Wine did that.
I didn't either. Kip Lewis made a lot of plays last year too. Big plays.
Wine broke out though, for sure.
He broke out at the end of the year. They lost R. Mason Thomas, and I was like, "Well, Alabama's going to shred this." And then they blitzed Kip Lewis just brilliantly, and he was getting free shots up the middle on apparently a beat-up Alabama team and just destroyed them. So theoretically, Oklahoma is the worst nightmare. But they just, like some of these other teams, they just have this need to chase negative plays in a way that Sark has repeatedly shown that he can really catch.
Yeah, and you saw this past year with a flawed Texas offense and team that, Trey Wisner gashed them in the inside zone or the outside zone game. And even some of the times when you get him in the open field, which kind of wasn't what he was known for at this Texas team. But that's what broke them. And it wasn't those long plays. It was that third quarter with the long drives and just being able to run the ball. And I think that's probably the defense and the skill talent that I'm most scared of. The defensive line, they've got so many good players. The team that I'm really interested in, and I want to hear Justin's thoughts on this, is you've got Ohio State on the schedule once again, and they're losing probably the number 2 pick, the number 5 pick, the number 10 pick. You just keep going down the line of just these elite athletes on defense, and some of the best in the country last year. And that's clearly was too much for Texas, even though Texas ran the ball. It was a decent bit of empty yardage in the run game. They couldn't score on offense apart from that long throw. So when you look at this Ohio State iteration, Justin, it's still Matt Patricia, but do you think maybe the Texas offense has the advantage when you're looking at the guys the Buckeyes are going to have to throw out there in replace of Downs, Reese, Styles, et cetera?
Yeah. So who do you have going number 2? I'm curious.
Reese. That seems to be consensus right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I keep thinking
Bailey.
Ty Simpson is going to try to sneak up, but that's not going to be a need at the number 2 spot. No, that's interesting. The thing is, this is the perfect, I think, ingredients for Texas offense this year, because we've seen it before where you played the team that's loaded with juniors and seniors and NFL talent, and we saw how Arch faced those bullets. Now it's a reset. Now, we also we saw how sneaky and clever Patricia can be last year, but he doesn't have that domino in Caleb Downs anymore. That guy was able to erase a lot of sins on that side of the ball. They're losing not only NFL talent, they're losing athleticism. Now they're going to reload. This is Ohio State. This is Ryan Day. They're going to reload. They've got some guys coming up, but I think it's obvious it helps Texas because Arch has seen kind of the tough side of that. He's going to see a different side. I'd probably be more worried about what Patricia dials up rather than the personnel on that side of the ball. Like I'd be more curious to see how they attack or how they defend Texas rather than 5 or 6 guys on that side of the ball being NFL ready like they were 12 months ago or 9 months ago, rather. It's an advantage for Texas. It's an advantage for Arch. Being at home, that's another advantage. But again, I think while the talent kind of scales over to the Texas side, I'm still going to be watching Patricia to see what he dials up, because last year he had Downs in that group on that side of the ball in their bag.
Yeah, that was a pretty tough defense to break for a pretty inexperienced Texas offense that had even more struggles than we were ready to see. And I look at this Ohio State team, and they've added so much in the portal that they might not have these top 3 to 4 players that are really, really scary and that should be playing in the NFL this season already. But they added a lot. Guys like Earl Little in the back end, Calhoun from Alabama might be a factor at cornerback. Linebackers, they got that buddy duo from Alabama, James Smith and Quid Rusaw. Ian, how do you see that matchup too? Because I think that's the one that we're gonna have to talk a lot about when it comes to that early off season or that late off season, then early season, because it's so important to go and win in Austin this year.
That's the other one. That's, if they just ran back what they did last year, I would think that they would be pretty poorly equipped to beat Texas again.
Really?
But if they ran back the same strategy with this year's players.
Gotcha. Yeah. They gave Downs a lot of freedom.
Yeah. If they had Downs back, then he'd be worried.
Yeah, you got another coach on the field essentially.
There's a lot of things that he does that are impressive. He was a really good player, maybe one of the best defensive players in the country last year, or definitely one of them, maybe the best. But so the question is, Patricia, was last year like I've got this script I can run and it's going to turn this defense into a lethal unit and then hopefully it works again? Or was that truly like something that he created for that specific unit, and he's got endless creativity and design to change things up to suit their new personnel? Because last year, if he can come up with another super efficient system that makes use of all their totally overhauled roster on defense in a similarly efficient way, then that's something to worry about. If he's only got a couple tricks and those tricks don't work with this roster, then they could get blown away.
That's the question though, Ian. We're gonna see if Patricia is more than a one-trick pony, right? Like last year, he inherited a baker's dozen of NFL guys. He doesn't have that same slew of kids this year.
Yeah. Now he did have a lot of weaknesses last year that he disguised with what they did.
Really?
Yeah. Their secondary, their coverage was not very good.
Specifically,
the cornerbacks were not very good. They didn't have a lot of true defensive linemen, like defensive tackles. They had a bunch of edges, so they were just firing 240 to 260 pound hybrids from every which angle, and that ended up working just fine. but they did not have a lot of true anchors. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There's probably, I should have listed them as maybe a bigger concern, because it's possible that Patricia has really found his level, where people will describe him as like a football genius. And it's possible he's currently at a level where that will actually be something that you see consistently, rather than
I gotta see him do it without 27 NFL prospects first.
Well, he's done it once, right? Well, not without NFL, but he's always going to have NFL prospects. He's at Ohio State.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. That you think he might be at his level. I think I want to see what he does without the uber talent on that side of the ball, or without the Megatron Optimus Prime safety and Caleb Downs. I think those are going to be,
we'll see,
exposures.
Yeah, Ryan made a good point in the chat. Ryan Nelson 2653, Charlie Becker and Surratt in that Big Ten title game, they were going after those cornerbacks from Ohio State, and that's where they found. And Indiana did that all year. They found a way to get down the sideline and get those big guys in one-on-one matchups, and that lost them. Your point on the defensive line, and maybe they don't have the edge rushers this year with guys like Caden Curry going off the NFL. I know Kenyatta Jackson's back, but he's more of a run stuffer. So there's definitely less of that pure NFL talent, elite type of players on this team. We'll see what kind of guys elevate like Reese did last year, but I don't know if it's quite going to be on the level of good to number 2 overall pick. Before we keep going on this article and talk a little bit recruiting and hoops, we're going to throw it over to Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Oh, it's an auto worm bite, turns out.
Giant. Oh, a giant.
It's a giant, so.
It's a giant. Oh, it's a giant. It's a giant.
That was one big fish. All right.
That's
Ian,
not
before we get out of here.
That's a piece of plastic. That's AI, brother. You must not have been on the show when my son saw that a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Nah, bro," because you're not catching a bass, 5 or 10 pounder, and your little canoe isn't going to be rocking at all, and you're just going to be holding it. No, that dog don't hunt. That's not how you catch fish. Come on, Academy.
Justin, that's not good for the ads. Either way,
How was that attitude, Justin?
Ian, anything quick on LSU and A&M before we get to some of the other kind of different types of defenses here?
LSU and A&M both live for third down.
Mm-hmm.
So their first and second down strategy is very minimalist. They're not trying to do a lot. They're just trying to hang on, play decent football, get to third down, and then on third down they both have they throw the house at you. So LSU is going to be a little bit vulnerable because Sark, when he's got weapons and he knows what you're in because you don't have as much disguise or as much variety, then that's trouble for LSU. And then for A&M, they were over aggressive last year, chasing negative plays, trying to get to third down, and Sark made them pay in a major way. Did not mean to rhyme there. So if they move away from that, if they feel like they can play things a little more fundamentally sound, then A&M might be trouble. But if they keep doing the chase negative plays to get to third down, then that already blew up on them once, and I don't see why it wouldn't be worse with an even better Texas team.
Yeah, you're seeing it with the draft process, even with A&M and their edge rusher Cassius Howell, who's coming in is the smallest defensive lineman edge type player that we've seen come out. And you're like, how can you draft that guy? How is he going to play the first 2 downs in the NFL? And they brought in another guy kind of like that, Anto Saka from Northwestern, who I think is going to play a similar role of just that go get him on third down. But yeah, I agree that I think Oklahoma is the one that shows up on paper as like, this will be the one that could give Texas fits. Let's go down to the Tennessee and Florida team because I think those are
real
both.
Quick, Marco Jones is the one that I'm the most worried about for A&M.
Okay.
Dude,
he's a returner, right?
He returns, but he didn't play. I don't know how much he played last year, but he's on the curve. That's a 5-star edge that they won out. He's out of California. That's the kid that can hit a baseball a country mile. That kid's athleticism. Ian, I don't remember if you remember us doing a notebook on him. That guy that was a stereotypical Texas Longhorn edge take if they could have got him in the class. And they recruited him hard but he wound up picking A&M. Marco Jones is going to be a stud in College Station.
And I worry with him. I worry for Texas' sake that he's not going to have to cheat and play unsound to get negative plays, that he can do it more legit than Howell. So that's the worry there.
He'll be more effective than Howell. Howell's going to have more. I think Howell will have higher sack numbers.
Yeah,
Jones is a much better, well-rounded player. Well, will be.
Yeah, he's got some size on the very worst. And don't tell people about playing baseball because I don't think he's doing that in College Station. But
no, it wasn't. I think he tried his first. I think the intention was maybe to try for his first year, and then I think it was like, nah, bro, we're gonna focus on football. Man, he could hit that ball, dude. Holy moly! Which is another reason Texas was into him. Baseball was recruiting him as well.
Yeah, that's how Texas does it here. You saw when Sloth was talking about Jonah Williams, but yeah, Ian, talk about these two Tennessee and Florida teams. When I look at them, these linebacker groups are the ones that really stand out for both sides, and of course Jim Knowles coming over for Tennessee. But what do they do well that might give Texas some problems this year?
They're mostly it's just that Tennessee and especially Florida are more the type of teams to actually play the strategy that I warned about, where they focus on keeping you in front of them and playing it safe, but then they still have enough talent on the defensive line to cause problems without having to get real junky or aggressive. Florida is probably the bigger concern there. Tennessee, I think, has some talent, but like you said, they have those linebackers. And Jim Knowles may end up defaulting to just getting real aggressive because he has that strain in him at times. So Florida is almost like sneakily the team that you worry about a little bit from this group. It all has to come together for them. We have to see. But they have defensive linemen on their roster that were really talented, that are kind of coming into their own now, like as sophomores and juniors. And they will take that approach on for sure.
Definitely. And I think I look at this Tennessee team and I'm like 4 starting defensive linemen gone. And even with Knowles bringing in, like you mentioned, the next wave of Penn State players, like that's going to be hard no matter how athletic your defensive linemen are to get all of them up to speed there. So you heard from me. And I mean, I think the offenses are what you're mostly looking at for how these teams can get burnt, for how Texas can get burnt. But yeah, Florida, Oklahoma are the defenses that could really get it done, that could give Texas fits. And of course, Oklahoma's going to need to score some touchdowns there. It's going to do it for us on this article. Let's talk some recruiting, Justin. Do a little 2-minute drill, what's been going on and how Texas is doing on the trail. I know what Lathan Wissenhunt just announced a commitment to Notre Dame. That may be more Noah Roberts news than anything, but talk to me about Brock Williams and just everything that's going on with this Texas recruiting update.
Yeah, so they got a handful of guys coming in today. Well, at least they're expected for the morning practice. Giovanni Tuggle, a big-time safety out of Georgia, and Khalil Johnson, an offensive tackle out of, I believe, Archbishop Moeller. I want to say that's where King Griffey Jr. played high school ball in Cincinnati. I can't remember exactly. But those are a couple guys. The big news is Brock Williams. He was on campus for 4 days. Like it felt like Texas wasn't going to let him leave. It was going to be like Mark Cuban and DeAndre Jordan trying to capture somebody with Blake Griffin. Brock Williams in Texas makes a lot of sense. Ohio State looks really good. Georgia looks really good. But, man, their NIL offer is substantial. Their recruiting pitch is strong. He really likes Jeff Banks. I think it's Texas to lose at this point. And I think Texas fans are ready for Banks to hook a Marlin at tight end in a recruiting class. Granted, Nick Townsend is definitely a fish that you would put on the wall, and he's going to turn into a star. But from a star power type guy, Brock Williams is your guy. Yeah, let's talk a little bit of running back recruiting. Yesterday, I posted yesterday morning about I was hearing that Lathan Wissenhunt and Notre Dame were about to happen. Talking to a source close to that recruitment, Texas they liked Wissenhunt a lot. I mean, it's hard not to. 5'11", 6 foot, 200 pounds. 4.54, can do a little bit of everything. I think he's going to be a better player in college than he is in high school. But it feels like Texas likes a few other guys a little more, notably Landon Williams-Callis out of Richmond Randall and Noah Roberts out of Basha High School in Chandler, Arizona. Texas is going to focus on those two. Now, listen, the Oregon Ducks, they're battling both for those two guys. The Ducks already have a guy in their class, Kadarius McMiller, big-time running back out of down the road here in Tyler, Texas. I think Texas could probably split LWC and Roberts with Oregon. It's going to be interesting how that plays out. And I think the Horns still want 2 in this cycle, but the running back room's not bad. So I don't necessarily think they have to take 2. They may just push all the chips for Roberts and LWC, and I could kind of see that happening. And then this weekend, there's a couple guys. There's a handful of guys that are going to come in. I think that list is going to grow. Matter of fact, Charlie Williams and I are working on it over at InsideTexas.com right now. Come over there and join it. You've never been a better time. Reed Ramsier is going to be on campus on Saturday. He is important because if in my best class scenario I did a couple weeks ago, everyone's always asking me about guards. What guards are Texas taking? I remember when tackle was the sexy position. Now it's like, who's that interior guard? Ooh, Zach Martin looking guy. Well, Reed Ramsier is on that trend line. It's funny because he kind of popped up out of nowhere on Kyle Flood's radar. He went by the school at his high school in Orlando. Really, really liked him. Ramsier had returned it. This is a guy that can play center, can play guard. I know they have Peyton Miller kind of eyeballed for that center spot, but Ramsier gives you some of that versatility. And they're going to have to go big on the inside. I know Texas looks good for a handful of tackles, Ishmael Kamara, Brian Swanson, but they have got to nail guard. They have not developed that position in the last couple of years. They've been sending tackles to the league. It's time to go to the interior O-line now. Come on, Kyle. And they don't necessarily have to be the largest humans. They just have to be the best. And so Cam Hall, Texas commit, he'll be on campus this weekend. Luke Neighbors, another edge out of Buford, Georgia. He'll be on campus this weekend. The biggest thing to know is you got to just come to InsideTexas.com and press that refresh because Charlie and I are updating this list regularly. I posted something this morning, a little bit more updates back into it. So we're going to have bigger recruiting weekends, probably the next few. I don't know how big this weekend will be. I guarantee you in early April and mid-April, those weekends are going to be a lot bigger. Kids love to come in and watch scrimmages. But at the end of the day, recruiting is going as planned. They're doing well in 2027. They're taking their time. They're going through their evals, and they're bringing guys on campus on a regular basis.
Yeah, no AI fish going up for Jeff Banks in the 2027 class. He's going for that real one. And yeah, a lot of good offensive notes there from you, Justin. I think a lot of people are excited for the idea of just one of LWC or Roberts. And when you spend all that money on Brown and Smothers, and then of course Derek Cooper this past year. Yeah,
great point. That's a great point. They spent big. Sorry, they spent big last year. I don't expect them to go over as much as they did with Cooper this year, and you can still get you a really, really good back. Does that mean they won't spend big for Landon Williams-Callis? No, that does not mean that. I am not saying that. I'm not implying that. I think if they went to the mat for LWC, they might do that. But you're right. That's a great point. They've already spent pretty big in that running back room. I expect them to be a little bit more judicious and efficient in this cycle.
Yeah, and I think overall the best foot forward might just be a 1-and-1 from the portal and the recruiting going forward for Texas. All right, Ian, I know you're chomping at the bit here. We're talking some basketball now. Texas, Purdue tonight, 6:10 tip-off Central Time. Ian, just give me your first thoughts on this game. I think this is maybe the first one of the tournament where Texas is clearly the underdog, and there isn't some kind of specific advantage they can take over. This Purdue offense is pretty tremendous, and I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I thought we were talking about how after adding Kevin Durant, the Rockets are tanking. I'm sorry, Purdue.
That would have been better if Joe was on.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Wizards fan. I've been expecting Texas to lose every round, and they've played terrific basketball to this point. I think this is where the bar gets too high to keep clearing. I can't pretend to be a college basketball expert, but
yes, you can, Boyd.
You can pretend to be anything.
Oh, I can pretend. That Purdue point guard is good.
Yeah.
It's their bigs. It's their bigs. They're skilled.
That one, the power forward is very skilled around the basket. And then they have those two guys that can That one dude that's like 6'5",
Lawyer.
Lawyer.
Yeah.
That's scary. If it felt like what part of what Texas has done really well is they're playing better team defense.
Yes.
And it gets a lot harder to play team defense if you have to commit somebody to shadowing that guy wherever he goes. And then that guy can't help on team defense anymore. Because you can't just put like a bum on him, I don't think. You have to put somebody
Like
with some length and capability on Lawyer. And then that guy is no longer as available to swipe passing lanes and help obstruct drives and stuff. It feels like a bridge too far to me, Justin.
I would agree. I think this is when the run ends tonight. And you know what? Did Texas basketball hit expectations? You're damn right they did. Sean Miller, year one. But brother, that's it right there. Get him to the. I mean, anything we talked about for the last 4 months has revolved around, well, if they make it to the Sweet 16, and none of us kind of thought that would happen, I'll admit. They didn't come in on the best wave, but man, Ian nailed it. They're playing much, much better team defense. Their help side, their rotations are about a step quicker than they were a couple months ago. They're a little bit more anticipatory. They're kind of looking in passing lanes a little bit more. Here's the key for Texas. One, they're not relying on one guy to score. They're kind of getting a mixture of a bunch. I don't think they necessarily have a go-to score. Swain could probably create you a shot. Tremont Mark could probably do the same, but those are not your 5-minute closers, go-to guys like a DJ Augustine. They're just not. But they've been kind of getting contributions from each spot. The key with this team has been rebounding. It's been the post play with Volkadis and those guys. Like, he's been effective to the point now they're going to have to pony up some NIL to bring him back next year. And I think he's going to be even more valuable. I didn't realize how good his feet are. Like he could act. He's got a pro prospect in his dreams. But look, Purdue's that team that's been there. I get a hardcore Virginia vibe from a few years ago when Tony Bennett won it. Those guys returned everybody. Everybody knew what the expectation was. Purdue decided not to turn it on until about 2 weeks ago because they've been through all this before. And now, like you said, with Braden Smith and their bigs, it's good. Listen, Gonzaga lost. You lost. And so at the end of the day, I think this run ends. It's going to be competitive. I think Sean Miller has these guys, believing that they can do this. I just think Purdue is a mountain that's just going to be maybe a little too tall to climb.
Yeah, I don't think Justin Staub was barking about Gonzaga. He was barking about Andre the Lawyer and all the great deals he can bring to you.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
I know a lot of you are curious about this, and from what we've heard on Jordan Pope, it sounds like he's going. And he said to Kirk Bohls of the Houston Chronicle, like, that I'm playing. And the thing that got me when I first was reporting and talking about it was that Sean Miller was he seemed positive about it, but it was kind of like a not going to commit to anything yet.
There's nothing definitive there. He's going to play. He's not 100%.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're at. And he had an ankle injury late in that game, and it's nice that they got that much rest. And CJ Cox of Purdue is another guy in this game who's dealing with injury, and I think he may swing towards the either very limited minutes or not even playing type of thing for the Boilermakers. But I think Pope's good to go. I think he's going to play. It's just about how much you can get out of him, and that brings me to kind of my main idea of what Texas needs in this game, and it's been Vokutitis this whole run. I think he's been the X factor clearly, and it's both sides of the ball. I think more defensively today because of the amount of pressure they're going to put on him in that drop coverage role. He can't be going up and fighting against Smith. That's going to be fouls galore. So he's got to make smart decisions down low. But I think this just has to be the Dalen Swain game for Texas, where he's been talked about as that first round pick for the last 2 months, and you've gotten good results from him, especially he's been passing the ball well, and the team their assist numbers have gone up so much. But Swain has not given you that true, I'm going to take over this game, I'm going to get my buckets and ISO ball. And I look at the Purdue roster and I'm going, yes, they have their big three of Lawyer, Smith, Kaufman, Wren. They have their big South Dakota guy and Oscar Clough, and they've got another wing that's Clough's good. He's not quite that, like, you remember when Purdue was spitting out 7-3 dude after 7-3 dude. They have that on the bench with Jacobson, but
Kevin, you know who he is? You're gonna look this name up. He's Scott Pollard.
Scott. See, I know that. I've heard that name. I couldn't
look him up. He was a big time post for Kansas. That's exactly who Cuff is.
Yeah, Clough's got great footwork down low. It's a guy that Voke Titus is going to have to be aware of. But I look at this roster, I'm going, I don't think Kaufman Wren can keep up with Swain on the perimeter as much. And they don't really have the size next to TKR of these wings. It's a lot of 6'4", 6'5" guys. So, I want to know your thoughts on that. Like, is that where Texas is going to need to generate their offenses in that Swain ISO, or is it going to maybe be closer to what we've been seeing a lot of, where Voke Titus is getting a lot of the work down low?
Well, that is possible. It doesn't seem like Purdue's bigs are. Why are you laughing, Justin? It doesn't seem like Purdue's bigs are like they're like amazing paint defenders from what I've seen. They are.
They're good in the paint. Yes, they can defend in the paint. They're not going to get you on the outside of the perimeter.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're good at maintaining decent position and putting their hands up. It doesn't seem like they're like loaded with like athletic.
Oh, no. You're not going to see that. This is not UNLV 1990. There's not fly slamma jamma. There's no athletes running up and down the floor in transition, flushing it. You just have a giant number of fundamentals.
It doesn't seem like their defense is like insanely athletic either.
It doesn't have to be. If you played correctly, help side defense, you don't have to be that athletic. They've been there, man. They've done this before.
Yeah, it seems like it's possible that he could have a good impact.
It's going to have to be balanced. I don't think Swain's if Swain gives you 25, I don't know if that's good, to be totally honest with you. I think I'd like to see all of them get about 8 to 12.
I think probably the second option. I think you probably want these Purdue white boys in isolation on guards more so than trying to hammer it down low.
Yes.
But
down low's not going to be there. Volcano's going to have a tough time because he's going to have more than just one body down there. With Gonzaga, it was basically Ike. With Purdue, there's like 4 guys they can rotate. So if anything, they'll wear him down.
Purdue is ranked among the teams left. The only worst defenses are, of course, Texas, who's in the 80s. Even with improving so much, they're in the 80s. And Alabama, them as the high-scoring team, and Arkansas. But of the 16, they're 4th to last in defensive KenPom efficiency. So that is where, Texas has gotten teams like NC State and BYU and Gonzaga because, they're great offensive teams. And for Gonzaga and BYU, maybe even better offensive teams at their best. But if they can't play defense against Texas, then it's gonna kill them. And I wonder if Purdue is going to have those problems that big three returning. There is also some kind of mental element of this is the last run for all of these guys. Lawyer, Kaufman, Wren, and Smith have been doing it at Purdue for a long time, and they've always fallen just a bit short. They made that Final Four run recently. Clough, I believe this is his last year of eligibility. So it's a full reset on the program if this is the final game for them. So I wonder how much that plays into a fact of it. Ian, Justin, before we go, Ian first, what are your score predictions? What do you think is going to happen in tonight's game?
Be honest, Boyd.
Purdue 85-70.
Comfortable.
I think Purdue is the number 1 offense remaining in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, at this point. It's them or Illinois.
It's them or Illinois. And they've gone back and forth, I think, throughout the whole season. I think it was Illinois for the majority of the years, the most efficient.
Purdue just barely right now.
Right. So Texas defense is going to be tested. But Ian makes a really good point. Purdue doesn't have the athletes that these other schools do. They just don't. And I'll be honest with you, Gonzaga did not shoot the ball as well as I thought they were going to. Like if Gonzaga nails 3 or 4 of those outside shots, that tone of that game may be different. I think Purdue hits those shots. I think Ian's prediction is really close. I'll go 80-65. I think Texas keeps it close. I think Texas defense is going to keep them in it. I think the fact that they're kind of playing with house money at this point is going to keep them in there. If this thing is a 2 or 3 possession game with 5 minutes left, I think that is the best scenario for Texas fans, because in that case, anything can happen. Texas, that first half and that first 10 minutes of the second half, they just have to keep it close. If they keep it within striking distance of that last 5 to 8 minutes, the Horns will have a shot. That's where it's going to be tough for Texas. Just keep that foot on the pedal for 40, 45 minutes to give yourself a chance at a run in that final 6, 7, 8 minutes of the game. If they can do that, we've seen a lot crazier stuff happen in March.
I'll tell you what. What kills these Big Ten teams, and they like Ryan at the beginning of the chat was noting how the Big Ten teams are all rated so high. Well, they all play each other. And the SEC teams tend to rank low, but here's the thing. The SEC teams are usually the most talented teams, but they're all underclassmen. Because they're reloading with like NBA type players that don't stick around. The Big Ten, like Purdue, you got all these white kids that are never going to the NBA. But then they've been there for 4 years, 5 years developing. What tends to kill these teams was the Big 12 would have good athletes that have been developed over time and could apply ball pressure all the way up and down the court. That's what Houston kills people with.
Amen.
Last year.
Baylor, when Baylor was good, that's what Baylor looked like.
You're right.
Texas Tech, when they were good, that's what they were doing.
You went too far. You should have just stopped drinking then.
Jarrett Culver?
We're not good. Yeah, Jarrett Culver.
Back when they
the Minnesota Timberwolves, nothing.
Hey, he's in Greece now.
That's the point.
Is he really?
I believe he's on the same team that Kendrick Nunn's on. I saw a graphic about that.
Oh.
We're getting off the rails.
No. Hey, this is Thursday Live, Evan. We go off the road half the time, and that's what makes people tune in and view us. Come see us at Inside Texas. It really is the best time.
So in that sense, Texas is probably they'd have to apply like that smothering ball pressure in the backcourt, and I just don't know if
do that anyway.
They don't do that in general. That's not really their thing.
I don't think I think because these are two of these sometimes isolation, but just half court scoring offenses. I don't know if this is quite an 85.
That's a good
85 point game. But I think, like I said it last night, 77-69 Purdue, where I think just like you said, like Texas can be in this game late. And Ryan pointed out, like Nick Cody has been giving them some good minutes. And that's been a little, not even earlier in the year, but late when it was bad, has been the time where teams have killed them. But I just think of when they played some of these truly elite teams, the Florida and Arkansas. And, well, Florida's not here anymore. But that Florida game where it just got away from them in the last 8 minutes. And I think that might happen to this Texas team where they play a good, I guess, 35 minutes of basketball. And then Purdue gets 2 threes in a row and maybe one's on transition. Miller calls a timeout. And it's just kind of from there they get whittled down. But I do think Texas keeps it competitive. It's just I think they're kind of running into the really good team and the team that actually has Final Four aspirations as opposed to Gonzaga and BYU, who people have pointed it out in our threads. Like, yeah, Gonzaga and BYU had injuries, but that's why they were 6 and 4 seeds. Like they would have been higher seeded if they didn't have these injury problems and Saunders and Huff were playing. But either way,
Gonzaga and BYU has more NBA talent, in my opinion.
True. Well, and DeBonce is going top 3, top 4, no matter what.
He's going number 1, Evan.
No,
who's going over him?
Boozer.
No. Which one? No.
Definitely not the point guard. That guy is terrible.
No, man. Boozer's not going. AJ's going number 1. You know how I know that? Because I watched him play against Texas. I did not know he was that skilled offensively.
Until he had to shoot a 3.
Dude. He's got some right-handed Stacey Augmon to his game. Like that kid's going to be really good. This is going to be a good draft this year. So
it's going to be great. I mean,
I can tell you what, a couple of these Purdue guys will make will make an NBA roster. The Arkansas kid is the best player in the country. That's Stephon Marbury 2.0, Darius Acuff. He's the main. Him and Brazil are the reason I think Arkansas can win this whole thing. thing. Evan wasn't on this last week. I told Ian and Joe, I don't do I don't pick a Final Four anymore. I just pick teams that I think can win a national title. And I think there are only 3 in this tournament this year. And it's Houston, Purdue, and Arkansas. One of the national champions is going to come out of that 3. Arkansas, brother, if they're clicking on all cylinders, they may be the toughest out of this tournament.
I had Arkansas in my Final Four going through that region. I had them losing to Michigan, but my mom would have killed me if I didn't pick Michigan to go win it.
Well, don't tell Mom. Why are you even letting Mom know? Lie to Mom.
Mom didn't pick the bracket. I did. I got belief in Lendenberg and May and those bigs, but I think that's going to do it for us. We could talk about the Sweet 16 and the rest of these teams and why my mother's judgment's not the best for the rest of the time. But before we go, make sure you're going over to InsideTexas.com for the best sale that they've got going. 50% off Ultimate Fan Bundle, Inside Texas for your recruiting needs. Like we've talked about Ian's articles and everything about Texas sports. On 3 for your national college football, college basketball news, especially with the basketball coaching carousel going on. Will Wade, Rivals for your recruiting, and of course that year of access to the Athletic. It's a great deal. Ian, Justin, thank you as always. I filled in for Joe today. I hope I did a good job.
Excellent job, Evan the Beef. Excellent job, brother. It was almost like we didn't know Joe was gone, except that Joe has been texting me nonstop this whole flipping show.
Yeah, that group chat had a few too many messages when I looked at it.
You ain't seen our one-on-ones.
Oh God,
man, we got to cut off at a 50 text per day mark. You got to cut it. Come on, Joseph. Enjoy Cabo while I'm in Austin.
I'm not getting the Joseph Cook spam or even the Justin Wells spam, but thank you guys. We'll see y'all next time. We're heading out of here. See ya.